Hello, hello, my podcast peoples. This is estate planning attorney Leslie Marenco bringing you another episode of Having Fun with Death and Taxes. Today, I am joined by a very good friend of mine and estate planning attorney extraordinaire, Alina Nuñez. Alina, please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Leslie, for having me on. Hi, everyone. My name is Alina Nuñez, and I also handle estate planning, probate administration, and real estate law. So I like to joke around and say I'm a dirt lawyer.
You're a death and dirt lawyer.
Yes, like death and dirt.
Death and dirt. And that used to be like a real name of something before, no? Back in like the 70s or something. It was like the name of a committee. It was like known as that.
The reptile, the real property, trust and yes.
Yes, all of that. So yeah, you truly are like death and dirt lawyer, like for real. So today we're going to be talking about the Marilyn Monroe estate, and not that Marilyn Monroe needs much of an introduction, pretty famous, and maybe we're going to discuss how that actually came to be, because there's a lot of other people, I guess, that were famous in the 60s and what have you, and I don't know who the fuck they are. I mean, we were even talking about Robin Williams on this podcast once, and, you know, as I was breaking down, like, the shows and the, you know, like, I'm a product of the 90s, so, like, I was like breaking down all these shows and I'm like, I've never heard any of these shows, right? Or any of these. I know him as like a comedian and only a comedian in like the movies he did in the 90s and that's it. With Marilyn, that's a very different, let's say, level of celebrity in a way that was interesting to learn about here. So, as an introduction, Marilyn was born in 1962. She died at the age of 36, which is, wow, very, very young. And quite at the height of her fame. She was born Norma Jean Mortensen and then later changed her name, but we'll just touch on the baby daddy issues here, because she is not a family attorney. We have other family attorneys that we have discussed ad nauseum, this concept of whether you're the legal parent or the biological parent, and those are two different things in the law. But she was unmarried and had no children when she passed away. But she had been previously married to Joe DiMaggio, who was like a baseball player.
A famous baseball player.
Famous baseball player. And then playwright and author Arthur Miller. And actually, fun fact, which I thought was amazing, that Joe DiMaggio apparently, like in the 1 year they were married or something, promised her that if she ever passed away, he would put flowers on her grave twice a week forever or something.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And he actually did it. Like, he actually did it. And that, you know, I was like, coño, this leads me to be like, oh yeah, which one of my 4 ex-boyfriends is gonna step up to put some flowers on my grave if anything happens? I don't think any of them. Like,
I wouldn't wait for it. I
don't expect it. But she was married to these two and another one, so she clearly fell in love quite often. Some people
wasn't it rumored that she had something with JFK?
I mean, I've heard.
Supposedly, allegedly.
Yes, allegedly. That's how we get out of legal problems around here. So she had no children, wasn't married when she died. She did have a mom that was alive, but apparently was incapacitated from everything that I can see. Not that there was a guardianship in place, but lady had schizophrenia and was not well. And dad, let's just say biological dad was not the dad on the birth certificate. So dad, not really in the picture here because has no legal rights to the estate.
Yep.
Anyway, apparently there was a couple siblings. One had passed away young and the other she didn't meet till she was an adult. So here, as opposed to like, I guess a lot of estates that we deal with, there's not a lot of family.
No connections there.
You know, that like everything to there is no anything to my cousin, my long lost, whatever, not at all. She had a different family unit. What she was worth at the time of death was also kind of interesting, and it always is with celebrities, right? Because it's like the $1.5 to $2 million that she died with, and that's 1962 money. So they said that's about $12 million per 1 million. So $24 million is the assets she died with. But we're not including what she's actually worth in the publicity,
correct,
in the rights, and the licensing.
All these royalties and everything after the fact.
And so, like many estates, a lot of money has been generated post-death, much more so than before she passed away. It's estimated that $200 million was earned between 1999 and 2019. So
Wow.
that 20-year span is $200 million. I'm like,
A lot more than she ever made in her lifetime.
somebody has done a really good job
Of promoting
Somebody
Marilyn.
we know is coming, but somebody's done a really good job promoting all of her likeliness and her image. So just to break down a little bit about the estate plan, and we'll talk more about this as we get into it, but very big picture, there was a will. There was a will that she executed in 1961, a year before she died, which is kind of crazy to think about because she was only 35 when she did it. So I'm not even sure what prompted her to be like, oh yeah, I need a will. Not sure. But it was a year before she died. There's no undue influence or any type of things that I could find anywhere in any court record. Obviously, she's only 36 years old. You do not have Alzheimer's or dementia quite yet, right?
No.
Like nobody's gonna come contest this for the usual purposes. We see like, oh, they executed a will a year before she died. We all know what
There's
that
something
usually,
fishy
we
there.
all know what that usually means.
Yes.
Grandma, who is usually cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs by then, is executing wills.
Yes.
You know,
It's
like,
like, here, sign this paper.
here, toma. Or like we just we did a podcast about a Casey Kasem, who like they dragged
Yes.
into the UPS store or something.
Yes.
You know, like I was like, ¿qué? This is unbelievable sometimes. And so, very big picture, she left 75% of the estate to her acting coach and close friend, Lee. She left 25% of the estate to her therapist, for what it seems, and also personal friend. And we'll get into what those clauses look like. She left a whopping $10,000 to her mom.
Well, it's something, I
I'm
guess.
like, I mean, even in 1962, I'm like, that's not a whole lot of money, guys. Like,
It's not.
you know, like, and mom is incapacitated, so assumingly she, what I read, like she left it to the executor to be like, you know,
To
go-
care for her.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
$10,000.
That's not
I
much.
mean, that's not even getting you, I guess, 1 month now in a nursing home. Is
No,
it? I don't,
and
maybe
it's
Hialeah.
and it's definitely
Maybe Hialeah.
not putting you like at Belmont here in the Gables.
No.
That's beautiful.
The palace, you're not going
Yeah,
to the palace.
no.
You're not going to the palace, guys, you know? And then we saw some small gifts. There was like 5 G's to this friend, 5 G's, whatever. Silly other little gifts. And then she named the executor her usual and ordinary business partner that she had for a long time that she already had issues with, which I find hilarious, named Inez Melcid. So Inez had already not just had a little bit of a lack of experience in doing these things, it seemed like she wasn't the most organized person even during life because I didn't get a whole lot of like she was robbing her blind in life, like not Elvis style.
Mismanagement.
But it was more like, oh, there's account. Good accounting.
Exactly.
You know, there's some money missing, but I don't know where it went. You know, like it wasn't just like total malfeasance here. It
No,
seemed
it
a lot
wasn't-
more like maybe this is not the person. This is not like a high C on the disc profile.
Yes.
This is not someone that should be, you know, keeping track of money and stuff like that. But that is who she named as her executor, probably because she didn't have any, right? We have clients that come in and they're like,
Oh, they have no idea.
my
They have no
cousin,
idea.
my whoever, and they have kind of an idea what those people do, but this seems like a very not well thought through
Agreed.
kind of thing. So just off that lovely introduction, what are some of the things that come to mind immediately of like, aquí, we're gonna have some problems.
Oh
you know?
Lord! Well, let's start.
Where
off,
do we start?
Let's even start with the fact that this is Marilyn Monroe. Even that most of her money or what generated her image came after her death. Still, in
Yeah,
the height of her
$24 million.
Yeah, in the height of her career.
is what she had.
She was Marilyn Monroe. She had done movies. She was famous. The fact that you had a 3-page will, that just blows my mind. How could you not have hired an attorney, sat down, and at least put together some sort of a better comprehensive? I mean, this is something that they could have done on a napkin themselves and be like, well, I leave this to this one. And that
10 G's to my mom.
That, to begin with, really blew my mind that this was such a simple estate. And the fact that it's a will, which doesn't avoid probate. But anyway,
Total
so
public record.
Total
That's
public
why we can pull
records.
all these things, guys.
Yes.
Like-
There's no privacy there, nothing. Everybody knows you're on blast of who you left what, $10,000 to mom, so we can sit here and judge her. How can she do that? Que mala hija.
Que mala hija. And we are very judgy.
Yeah,
we
no,
are very
but
judgy on this podcast.
that is definitely number one. And then number two, like you mentioned, like naming your executor, the person that you are going to trust to administer this high value estate to someone that you're already having problems with, that hasn't managed your money correctly to begin with, not with a bad intent, like, but just,
But
just
still.
because they don't know. You need to pick someone that that you know that you can trust, that's going to do a good job. And it's a big task.
Yes.
And especially with someone like Marilyn, because it's not just a matter of the money she leaves, but it's her future royalties,
It's
her
a complicated
image.
nature of
It
the assets
is.
that she's leaving behind. Because it's not just, you're right, like the dress or whatever that sold for $1 million or something else that sold for,
Exactly.
the piano that Mariah Carey bought her, like whatever. There's issues here that we're going to be tax issues that
Yes.
we're not going to get into here today, and we have little Inez over here who probably has no concept,
No clue how to
of
handle
what's
this.
going on.
This is
right?
like a huge beast, and he going trying to like tame it or something, like, come here, kitty, and it's like this huge tiger. Like, no, you need to take control, and you need to be able to know what you're doing, hire the right professionals to help you tax advisors and everything. And Inez is just there like, oh, let's just kind of do this, let's do that, and we'll figure it out as we go. No.
And she really, I mean, the figuring out as we go, especially in something like a taxable issue that there are very specific deadlines for,
Yes.
usually doesn't work all that well. But let's assume Inez might have hired some decent counsel at some point, but not before the state of New York got very concerned, since they're owed taxes, about what the hell is going on in this estate. So a lot of what we're going to talk about now comes from those filings in New York, because very shortly after Inez gets appointed, somebody steps in and goes, wait a minute, like, we don't have a proper inventory. I don't think this executor is doing the right thing or their job at all. There's allegations of, which I thought was amazing, that she never went into Marilyn's home, or not initially, to inventory the assets. Then I saw and then there was like some bullshit informal inventory that she tried to produce. And then there was apparently some evidence that Inez gave some stuff to her son.
Yes.
And, like, oh, go sell this.
Yes.
Go do whatever you want. You
No.
loved Marilyn just as much as I did. You should have some of her stuff. As if her stuff is just like normal t-shirt or something. Like, then she failed to disclose like some bank accounts, and she was just kind of like, I forgot about those.
Oops.
Like, oops.
My bad.
I mean, like, this is a little too much for Inez to handle, it seems. And then se metió en lo que no le importa, because I thought this was even more funny. And we'll talk about the vague clauses in this 3-page will, which don't even, like, oh my God, how did this happen? But then Inez recognizes that there's a vague clause going to her friend, Marilyn's friend, the psychiatrist, and says, hey, you're supposed to be donating this money to some causes, like, when's that gonna happen? And she immediately lawyered up, and it was kind of like, that's none of your fucking business. How about that? Because, like, It was left to me with the purpose that I'm gonna figure that out. This is not an ongoing trust or anything. This is some will that there is a timeline to probate a will, and, like, you be on your merry way, babe. Like, make the distributions over here, and I don't want to hear nothing else from you. And apparently Inez was trying to get cute with that, going, well, what do you mean? Are you gonna, like, disclose who you're gonna leave this money to? Like, who are you gonna donate it to? And no, Dr. Chris was like, no, not so much.
It's up to her discretion.
She's like, I don't have to. So why are you talking to me? Like, so I thought that was interesting, because, like, her real job, she wasn't doing very well.
No. And now this job, she's doing even worse.
And now she's like trying to meterse en lo que no le importa.
No.
I was like, wait a minute. I thought that was a little like, okay. It's that 25% of the estate. When you think of 25% and 75% that she's going to leave to Lee, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And I'm sure Inez is like, oh yeah, they made me executor, but I'm not exactly a beneficiary of this bitch.
Nope.
So what's going on with that? Like, so maybe she was, trying to make herself more useful than not. I'm not sure. And then the other thing was definitely, there's a lot of discussion about, hey, you have this, again, issue of domiciliary, whether New York or California, that's going to be the difference of millions of dollars in taxes. And Inez was not so concerned about these things, because you immediately need to start putting together proof of where someone is domiciled.
Absolutely.
And that's usually factual testimony and affidavits and different things like this. As crazy as that might sound to our podcast audience that are civilians, not attorneys, or even attorneys don't practice in our area.
Yeah.
So Inez was very busy over here bothering Chris about, what charities are you donating to, and not putting together the evidence we needed to argue with the state of California or the state of New York or whatever it was to make sure that we were domiciled in the right place.
Which has significant tax implications. And here's New York going, hey, we want our taxes.
And California is like, oh yeah, I don't care what they're doing. We want our taxes too. So, and it's up to the deceased, the decedent's estate to prove where they were actually domiciled, and they have the burden. So, but Inez was not about this.
She wasn't concerned. No.
She was not about this real fiduciary life. She was like, wait a minute, this is a lot more work, it seems, than just being her manager. I don't know. Because she did not do a good job, and she was therefore removed. She was absolutely removed from being the executor. And what we saw is that the successor executor was put in place along with a public administrator. So this judge probably already had enough of regular people trying to be whatever, and so there were co-executors. Although I believe successor was still some attorney, some type of.
At least there was a checks and balances.
At least there was something.
There was like some sort of checks and balances versus Inez doing whatever she wants.
But certainly I can imagine, with very wealthy clients or celebrities or whatever, there'd be extensive conversations, of course, about who's your executor. But generally in our practice too, right? Like, what are the things that you see, like, husband and wife come in, and what's the most common thing that they're going to tell you about, like, okay, I want this person to be my executor? Like, what are the different options that you usually walk them through?
Well, most people, so when they come and sit down for estate planning, they're always more concerned about, well, what do I have? Who's going to receive what? And when I get to that part of like, okay, well, have you thought about who you're going to name executor? I get that blank stare.
Don't they sometimes look at you like, I thought that was you?
Exactly,
Isn't
yes.
that what I'm paying you for?
I'm like, no. I am drafting your estate plan. I am not going to be the one being the executor. But I get that kind of like blank stare like, oh, who would I trust with this?
Right.
And I tell them oftentimes those decisions is a lot more important.
Oh my God.
Because when you are not here, this is the person you are trusting to be able to make these decisions, properly administer your estate, make sure that your wishes are met and that everything is done correctly and that your beneficiaries are protected and taxes need to be paid and take care. It's a big job.
It is a big job.
It's a huge job.
It is a big job.
So a lot of times people are like, oh, I guess I'll name my kid, or, oh, I guess I'll name this person,
or I'll name all my kids.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. They want to name all 4 of them to serve as co-executors, co-decision makers. And I'm always like, oh, the more chefs in the kitchen, the more issues you're going to have.
The more this recipe ain't
getting It is. So,
it's not getting baked.
I like to try to limit it. But yes, well, coincidentally, yesterday, my trust client that I had in the office yesterday, she named all 4 of her kids. She was very adamant.
Right.
She did not want to pick. She did not want to be seen as quote unquote the bad person and favoring one child over another or this. And she goes, I want all 4 of them. Let them figure it out. I'm like, oh, that's wonderful.
That's adorable.
That's going to be great.
Yeah, and to that point, we're here to advise our clients, but if somebody really doubles down and goes, oh, no, I don't care about everything you just advised me, right? I want all of them.
Yeah.
Or cousin Vinny, who's, a coke addict.
Yes.
I have had this.
Or has a gambling addiction.
When I start hearing about crazy, cousin, long lost cousin, I don't know who, and I'm like, do they have any, criminal record or... Oh, yeah, a little. This is like a drug conviction, I think.
Yeah,
in the
that's
80s.
it.
Everybody had a drug conviction in the 80s. This is Miami. I was like, no, cousin Vinny ain't going to be the executor with his, cocaine conviction.
Yes.
He may be deported in this administration.
Yes.
I don't know. So, it's quite an interesting counseling session sometimes because people are very, concerned about, I don't want to be seen as favored. And I'm like, no good deed goes unpunished.
Yes.
Your kids are going to be very frustrated with you. Are you sure that the rest of them wouldn't understand that number 2, who's the only one that's organized? Who's the only one, even worse when there's 4 kids and 3 of them are creatives and one's a CPA.
Yes.
And they're still put them all. And you're like, really,
no.
This is a really bad idea.
No.
This is a very, very bad idea.
We all know our family dynamics best. And there's some of us who thrive under, in a certain situation versus others. I know it's me and my brother. Yeah. I know when it comes to dealing with doctors and health issues and that type of stuff, I am like a wet noodle. I'm like, no, I'm too emotional. But when it comes to administrating and things like that, that is where I function best. So we each know our roles. He deals with the doctors. I deal with everything else. And it works.
And
but
it works.
you have to know that dynamic, and you have to be able to make that tough decision. At the end of the day, I can tell them, oh yeah, you're not going to be here. So you're not going to hear the bitching.
Yeah.
So don't
What do
worry
you
about
think
it.
about
What do
you?
you care? No, but if they find out and they read my trust, well, you don't have to show it to them. Just keep it in your drawer. You don't have to show it to them.
That's right. Because you could really avoid so many problems by choosing the right executor.
Yes.
I mean, we're talking about maybe some organizational skills and whatever with Marilyn. And obviously she did not understand really that her job also entailed inventorying assets and like being very serious and not stealing from the estate in the sense of like letting your son go get some stuff and selling it on what would have been eBay. I don't know back then. You know,
Like,
the
that's
garage
all part of the estate.
like, really, that's not okay. But in general, I had an old boss, and he used to say something to the effect of like, when you have a good executor, they can sometimes overcome some bad planning.
Yes.
Some like bad drafting, you know, some ambiguities. Because if they have good conflict skills and they could like level with everybody and be like, guys, there's a little bit of a fuck up in these documents, but how do we can solve it like this? If not, it's going to be a very expensive court reformation process or not, right?
Yes.
And he used to be like, the right executor can really overcome some drafting issues. The wrong executor cannot even overcome the most perfect estate planning documents.
Absolutely.
Because they are going to be a shit show in every way. They may cause conflict when there is none. They may cause distrust when there is none initially. I mean, whether there's always a distrust or not is something that he also believes strongly. But I always remember that and going, man, this is the most important decision
It is.
people make, and they really don't think about
They
it.
don't.
They
They
really
don't. A lot of times it's just like, I guess this person or that person, and they don't. And I really tell them, and not only they need to make the decision, but they need to make sure that the person they're naming is okay with this role, that they are okay with stepping into this role when the day comes, because it is a big responsibility. And I've had probates where we approach the executive, they're like, no, I want nothing to do with this. And they're like, name someone else, give me a paper to sign. I don't want to be in this. I don't want to deal with this. So I'm like, great. So the person, that got picked wants nothing to do with this.
Sure. And not only that, like, I think it's also a very different decision on say, multiple fronts. If it's just a will that everything's going to get distributed, kind of like here, outright, then that's one thing. I think we're looking for organization. We're looking for certain somebody that believes they have a responsibility, et cetera. But if you are now an executor, a trustee of a trust,
yes,
and there's minor children,
yes,
that's a different conversation.
And that trust is going to be in existence for several years.
Right.
This is someone that's going to have to be able to invest that money, take care of these assets for the benefit of this child, not just leave it in some account earning, less than
Nothing.
1% interest. Like, yeah, absolutely.
And even when you have trusts for adults that are going to continue, right?
Yes.
That are dynasty or whatever it is, or maybe lifetime asset protection trust, whatever it is, that now you're going to have adult people that are going to be requesting distributions and requesting whatever from the trustee. And to what extent do they want to deal with any of this?
Yes.
Like, we do a lot of trust administration here, and it's interesting. One of the newest ones we got, like both things, is actually he never changed the documents. So the ex-girlfriend is the trustee, the executor, the everything. They broke up like 2 years ago.
Ooh.
The only beneficiary is a child from his previous wife.
Oh.
Right. And I was like, oh my God, right?
So now you got the ex-girlfriend and the ex-wife having to deal with each other.
And
Oh,
there's
lovely.
no successor in the document. And I was just like, oh my gosh. So the conversations with ex-girlfriend, who is our client, who is wonderful. And I was just like, look, we always ask our trustees, we need to know how sophisticated.
Yeah.
How much time do you have to do this?
Yes.
Right? To what extent, especially if you're a third party, to what extent do you want to do anything other than sign documents, right? Because as the attorneys that represent the trustee, we could just do the purely legal part, the purely tax part. We could do some fiduciary accountings for you if that's all you need. Or I could literally go inventory the house, and send, not me, for the record. The first year's got to go do that shit. You know what I mean? So it's like, to what extent does this person want? And of course, ex-girlfriend is like, yo no quiero saber nada de esto,
Nothing.
right? Like, do I even have to do this? And I didn't really, it's not that I didn't tell you could not do it. What I said is, look, there's no successor. We're going to have to go into court. Somebody's going to be appointed. It's going to be a whole thing. There's only a couple $1 million in life insurance that really is going to pour in here. There's a separate probate. We don't know what other assets there are, but it looks like the life insurance is really going to be the bulk of the estate. So it was like, to the extent that you're not in war, because she's like, look, me and his ex-wife never had a problem.
Okay.
So if,
well, that's good.
At least, right?
Yeah.
She's like, we never had an outward, like there was no animosity. I met the woman like one time, it's fine. It's crazy that he appointed our client because like they weren't even together for very long.
Oh, wow.
It's one of those, like, can you imagine? Like, boyfriend and girlfriend were like for a year and all of a sudden, surprise.
You're my trustee on my trust. There you go.
Like, administer, she's like, I don't want to do any of this.
That's
right?
like the equivalent, I think, of tattooing that person's name on you or something.
Oh my
something
God.
important and permanent. Like, let me just name you as trustee.
I'm going to be quoting you for sure in future podcasts.
There you go.
For sure. That is such a great analogy. I love it. And so with that, I was just like, wow, this is super interesting. And so we created mechanisms by which, ex-wife can ask for money for the child and blah, 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 blah. And it seems to be working fine. A bigger shit show that we've also signed up lately, and I could see it coming, the shit show, is there's 3 kids, 2 are minors.
Okay.
The deceased leaves cousin. Cousin who's 22 years old.
Oh, no.
# living his best life.
Oh, no.
Does not live in Miami.
Oh.
By the way.
Of course not.
Because he's off partying, I believe, is that he's moved, in the little time we've had this case, it's been 6 months. He's moved twice. He was in Orlando, then he went to
very stable.
Yeah. Fantastic, right? And the idea, because I was asking the whole family. It was actually dad that brought me the trust, her dad, so grandpa to the kids. And I was like, I'm sorry, what, we chose who? Who is this kid?
The 22-year-old cousin.
And he was like, Mira, I don't know. Dad didn't want to tell me anything. When I asked cousin was like, oh, because all of those kids hate dad. All those kids hate grandpa.
Oh.
Grandpa's too strict. Grandpa's whatever. Grandpa apparently uses money allegedly to control daughter and grandkids. So there was a little bit of this going on. Okay. But now cousin is inheriting a shit ton of little shops that it looks like grandpa was fueling daughters entrepreneurial whatever.
Oh, okay,
but none of
gotcha.
these businesses
Took off.
Are making any money, and grandpa was just kind of patting.
Letting her play
It seemed that way,
okay.
but now you have 22-year-old cousin who we got to tell you got to close these businesses.
Oh my God,
down.
you got to do
They are
inventories,
spending
wind
money.
them down,
you
and oh my
can't
Lord.
allow these businesses to continue, and the trust is not paying for this, right? This is wild, and 22-year-old is just like, can I get a new car? I need a new car, And
That's all he cares about. Can I get a new car?
I'm like, and at first I was like, well, maybe a minivan to come see the kids.
I want a Porsche.
He was not interested in no minivan to
course
drive
not.
to Miami to see these kids. He was like, I'm like, oh no, you're not getting a
yes.
cars. What do you think this is, right? So there's a lot of these dynamics that really got to be thought through.
Yes.
Come on, guys. And I don't know to what extent, sometimes you could very easily go, hey, lawyer, what the hell were you thinking? But sometimes it's just impossible to get through to your clients.
It is. No, I agree. I mean, I when it comes to the naming multiple people, I really tell them the most I would suggest is 2. Even co.
On a good day.
Exactly.
On
even
a good day.
Co-trustees.
Best friends.
I don't like. I'd rather a first and a second, and give me a third and do succession. But at most, if you're really concerned and you want a checks and balance, but I don't trust this one, so I want someone there to double check them so they can't make all the, fine. Pero, naming a 22-year-old or naming 5 of them together, or the fact that they don't live here and the assets and the children that are beneficiaries of this trust that is just a recipe for disaster.
It really
just is.
It really is. And in trust administration, we can buffer it a little, right? Like I said, either you're the attorney and you're just doing basic legal work for the trust, or you're the attorney that takes over.
Yeah.
And you're basically doing their job,
Yes.
the trustee's job, because the trustee no quiere saber, they are not interested in this shit show, right? So it's kind of interesting, but that dynamic really needs to be, the scenarios need to be thought
Yes,
through. They really,
absolutely.
They really do. The second thing that immediately, as you mentioned before, came to mind in this wonderful estate with a 3-page will that is just mind-blowing is how very vague and wishy-washy we are about things, and how apparently nobody said that's not gonna be enough. Like, that's not legit. Like, we need to be able to identify things and figure out things. And when you say I trust, because I'm sure you get it too. No, I trust them to make a decision. Ay, bendito.
Yes.
Like, I need a drink just thinking of that silly statement. So let me read to you some of these wonderful clauses that were drafted into
There's
this
only
book.
3 pages, Leslie. There's only so much you can fit.
I just can't with this. Like, I give and bequeath all my personal effects. And let's remind you, this is Marilyn Monroe, and she's already famous. She is already a celebrity. She's already a superstar, okay? Like, my personal effects ain't my t-shirt that nobody wants, right? Like, this is already, like, talking about something that's worth something. So we're giving all my personal effects to my darling Lee Strasberg. And if he should not be around, then my executor should it be known that it is my desire to distribute this in his sole discretion amongst my friends, colleagues, and those to who I am devoted.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, qué lindo. That's adorable.
Gave some to her son.
Like,
she's like, Aki, you fall in that category.
She was very devoted to you. Like, it was like, what in the world does that mean? Oh my God.
That clause might as well not even be in there.
And so, at least lucky for Lee, he was still alive. And so he, of course, did not distribute this to anybody.
Of course.
Because there's a whole lot of, he put it in at least it was temperature controlled warehouse, where he apparently just didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Because there is no allegation at all that Lee, went giving it away or selling it or doing anything. Like, he just parked all of it in there. And it looks like he had his own, maybe sentimentality around it, his own psychological attachment to all of her stuff because...
Well, remember, and this is what I tell my clients, and we got to keep in mind, he's also he was close with her.
Yeah.
So he's dealing with the loss of losing a friend.
And it really seems like he really was dealing.
So it's very overwhelming to now have all of these things that you don't know what to do with it. And to a certain extent might have a sentimental value because they might bring memories. So yeah, I lost my mom almost 3 years ago. I still, in the spare bedroom of my house, have containers and bins of her stuff because it's very overwhelming to go through it and either throw it out or do this or do that. And it's like you do it little by little. So I can totally see where Lee's coming from. And that's, again, a big ask, a big responsibility to tell people, here, toma, here's all my stuff. Do what you want with it.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. And then on top of that, it's Marilyn Monroe. So the value that it has, it's even more like, okay, you can't just, I'm going to give this to Goodwill. No.
The piano.
Yes.
The grand piano to Goodwill. I mean, so as vague as that was, at least Lee, at least he secured the property.
Yeah, well, that's good.
And maybe he was figuring out.
He took care of the assets. He secured them. He protected them.
Maybe he should have been executor.
The PR.
Not sure.
Yes.
Maybe not sure. But then we have the other 25% of the estate to her darling friend and psychiatrist, Marianne Chris. And it says, I'm leaving it to you, Chris, but for the benefit of psychiatric charities for the furtherance of psychiatric work.
Oh, boy.
Oh, that's even more like, what is this? And there is no record of Dr. Chris making
that contribution. Ooh, or all of a sudden, Dr. Chris opens up a not-for-profit 401c and says, oh, look, this is now a charity.
Da-da-da-da. Man, and imagine what the other part about this, right, is when you have beneficiary designation, in your trust, these are the people that are going to inherit from me. When they don't get something, and they're all very, very interested in what they're getting, and very aware, they get noticed, and all of these things, right? When they don't, what do? They get lawyers, and they start suing, and they're like, where's my money, right? But when you have something like this, which is for the benefit of the psychiatric charities for the furtherance of, I'm sorry, if I was a charity, I would be like, hello.
That's me.
That's me. I think I fall in the category. You're like the emoji, hi.
Yeah.
Whatever. But you have no right. Who actually has standing to be like, oye, Dr. Quiz, suelta dinero.
Yeah.
Let's go. Give it up, Bep. Nobody has standing. This is the most vague shit I have ever read.
And that's why it needs to be clear. It needs to be written out. I've had clients that want to leave a certain amount of money to either their alma mater, a university, or a certain, or St. Jude, or the Cancer Society. But we need to specify it. It needs to be written out, and the dollar amount and how much is to go and to who. Because if not, anybody can step up to the plate and go, oh, my little rinky dink, I'm a psychiatrist and I have this. And yes, I would like all the money because that's what Marilyn wanted. And who's to argue?
Right.
Who's to argue?
And you would think also, like, at a minimum, right? Let's say she really did want Dr. Chris here, to figure this out. Then I guess put a timeline. Like, in the process of this probate, I need Dr. Chris to choose. And if Dr. Chris doesn't choose in the 9 months after I die, whatever it is, then fuck it, judge, figure this out.
Exactly.
Like, there needs to be something, not just like, here's 25% of the equivalent of $24 million in assets.
Whew.
Just hand it to Dr. Chris. And Dr. Chris is like, man, best patient ever, guys.
Yes.
Best patient ever. She loved me. This is my money now. And to your point, this was not put into any kind of foundation.
Nope.
It did not say, which would be crazy, to put inside of a will, like, I don't know, executor, judge, please create a foundation for me. Like no, guys, that's real planning that you need to do yourself with your estate planning attorney,
Yes.
through charitable trusts and other things. That is not something you tell a judge to go do for you. Like my old partner Jason once had a judge yell at him that she's not there to do the estate planning your client didn't do.
Oh.
Because he wanted some testamentary special needs things set up for an incapacitated beneficiary, and that was not in the documents at all. And this judge had you know who I'm talking about.
Yep.
Was a little temperamental, had a reputation for being that, and it was just not a good day for her.
Oh, boy.
And she ripped into my old partner Jason, going, "I'm sorry, I'm not here to do the estate planning your fucking client didn't do. Get out of here." No. And that caused a huge problem because special needs children have all kinds of special rules, and all of her benefits were cut off. And of course, client is very upset, etc. So in this case, it's the same thing. Judge is not going to go set up a foundation for you. Like, what do you think this is? Like, that's something you need to do if you have those charitable inclinations.
Exactly.
And so this seems like Marilyn, at all of the age of 35, just decided to put something on paper.
Yes.
Anything, apparently, in her mind was better than nothing. But I'm not even really sure if that's the case in this particular estate. Not sure. That's debatable. That is debatable. But then the last thing that is just so amazing here, because this 3-page will, like you alluded to, is just way too simple.
It is.
Of a document for anyone with any kind of money, right? And especially if you want to benefit certain people during their life and then do other things or benefit charities or whatever it is. Your simple 1-page will, 3-page will, whatever it is. I don't know how long the LegalZoom ones are now. But I've definitely seen 1-page wills where it's like somebody tries to copy like the beginning and the end and just puts like 3 bullet points. And you're like, what is this? What am I supposed to do with this?
Like I told you right before we started, I actually had someone do their own will on ChatGPT.
But was it longer than like a page?
It was like 2-3 pages.
ChatGPT, you got to do better.
Yes, and brought it to me and sat there and literally was like, "Can you please review this will for me that I created on ChatGPT?" And I said, "Absolutely
no.
not."
She said,
no. "Absolutely not."
My E&O carrier will not allow me to do that. Like, absolutely not. But a will, and actually, this is a great for our civilian audience over here. Tell them the difference between a will and a trust, like in the simplest way.
Oh my gosh. So a will does not avoid probate. That is the number one. A will does not avoid probate. It is just a simple, this is what I have, this is who receives it, make the distributions, goodbye. In a trust, you can include all sorts of provisions. The example I give is like a box, and you can stick different things inside that box, and you can give instructions of what happens with those things in those box. And maybe that box has a smaller box that breaks out.
I love that.
Yeah, and you say, okay, well, I want this to go to this person, but I know that this person maybe has a gambling addiction. So the money I'm going to leave them, I want them to have it, but it's going to be controlled by someone else, a trustee. for their benefit until condition or whatever. So it lets you plan for all of those what ifs, and it lets you set all these conditions. A will doesn't. A will is very simple. This is what I got. This is who gets it. Dale. So it's
like a one-trick pony.
It
guys.
is.
The will is a one-trick pony. You cannot get cute with it. You
No.
can't get fancy with it. You can't start creating things in the future. What if Mr. Lee had passed away before Marilyn, or in this case, like what happened here? Lee, who has all of the rights to her, to all of her intellectual property rights, all of her personal property, and 75% of all of the rest of the estate, all of her money, bank accounts, houses, whatever there was. So Lee's the guy.
Yes.
Lee is the guy. And Lee clearly did not go blowing it on Ferraris and hookers and coke. Lee apparently had a lot of sentimental attachment to some of these assets, the personal property ones.
Yeah.
And apparently there was just a lot of other things there too, and had the rights, which is the most important thing here,
Yes.
to all of the intellectual property. So think about anything you've ever seen with Marilyn Monroe's picture on it.
Yes.
Like, how famous is this stupid dress with the wind?
The white dress, the white halter top.
White dress.
Yes.
Where did this wind come from?
It was
from a movie?
It was from a movie.
from a movie.
And it was there was like she stood on in New York how they have the grates from the underneath, and the wind blows up and it
I didn't
blew
know
up.
if that was like a photo shoot or an actual movie.
No, it was
or
from
where
a
that comes
movie.
from, but this is just like
Yeah.
iconic, right?
Absolutely.
Like, the same thing with a dress singing to JFK.
Yes, the happy birthday.
Or the piano that she's on top of, or whatever it is. These are things that even for generations, my God, somebody had to pay to put. I remember, was it Mac or something back in the day, like in the 90s, had like the red Marilyn Monroe.
Yes.
Was it Mac or whatever, one of these very big brand,
and they have to pay for that.
A shit ton of money,
all
I'm
those
sure.
rights, royalties, everything.
Everything. And so Lee is the one that has the rights to all of this, but it doesn't look like Lee really did anything from 1962 to the 80s when he passed away with much of it. But then he passes away, and his third wife, named Anna, born in Venezuela, which I thought was very interesting.
I know, right?
I was like, what?
Okay.
I was like, how did that happen? Maybe she's a
Lee
military
likes his
baby or
spicy
something.
Latinas.
Or maybe she's spicy Latina. I don't know. I just assumed she's like military brat or something. Who knows why she was in Venezuela. But she inherits it. She inherits all of Lee's estate.
Who Marilyn never knew, had no relation with whatsoever.
Say, yo, Anna, if anything happens, this is kind of what I want, like nothing, right? So Anna, this is crazy. Like, this is like Christmas. Like, talk about karma. She must have done great deeds in a past life to all of a sudden have this level of boom, fall on top of her. But now Anna is like, wow, this is fantastic, because Anna is a businesswoman.
Yes.
Clearly. What we learn now in all of this is Anna goes, I'm going to blow this up.
Because she has no sentimental attachment.
None.
It's money, money, money.
She's like, wow, there's this warehouse. I didn't even know this was in here. Or maybe she's like, I've been telling Lee to sell this shit for 30 years. I don't know, right? Who knows?
She had no idea.
It's Christmas, and it's just fallen in my lap.
Yep.
And I'm going to make the most of this. This isn't even we were talking about before in a previous episode how Robin Williams put a moratorium on all his so nobody could put his face on a fucking salad dressing, because I've joked I would do that. I would be an Anna. If somebody dies and they don't tell me what they want,
they're everywhere.
The only good thing about that, I'm going to monetize this estate.
Yeah.
As the attorney to the trustee, if that's what they're telling me, we're going to do this, we're going to do brand deals. We're going to go to auction with this dress for $1.2 million, guys. In 1999, that dress sold for. So in a way, either this is a travesty that Marilyn would have never wanted, because clearly she had charitable, or this is Anna doing a great job, benefiting the estate, which is her. She's just not doing a great job as fiduciary. It's just hers. But she's doing a great job capitalizing and really, and that might be one of the reasons, if we think about it that way, that everyone now in year 2025, even, the kids that don't know anything, my law clerks that are all of 20 years of age and don't know how to write a check or write an envelope.
Or an envelope, yes.
For God's sakes, right? They're like, what is this check? What do we do with this, you know? Or where does the address go? Those kids still know who Marilyn Monroe is.
Absolutely.
Right? So there's something to be said for Anna has done at least a good job making the most out of these assets.
And cashing in on it. And just basically, yes, those royalties, those fees, that money.
They're still going.
Keeping that image alive. And yes, yeah.
It's really kind of impressive from that angle. But this happens because in this will, there's no oversight.
Nothing.
There's no restriction.
Nothing.
There was no, Lee, you get it and do something while you're alive with it and, you know, only use the income, not the principal. Or, you know, there was nothing. There was nothing. There was just, here, Lee, and then Lee passes away and now what?
Yeah, Lee's heirs inherit. And I bet she never thought of that. And most people don't. You know, they think, oh, you know, I will get clients that come in, they're like, oh, but if I want my son to inherit, not my son's wife, or, you know, my daughter to inherit, not my daughter's husband or whatnot.
That's very popular
very
in the Latin
common.
community.
And I mean, I get it because you've worked your years and those to make that legacy, and you want it to continue down through your generation and you know, your heirs and grandchildren, great grandchildren and whatnot. And something very much like this, if you don't do the right thing, then some wife that you've never met, number three, and maybe she was a Marilyn Monroe fan, but reality is, I'm sure Marilyn did not imagine that this is what would happen with her estate. I guarantee.
And you know, I mean, this is absolutely not Lee's fault, but Lee could have done something too.
He could have.
I mean, Lee could have been like, I clearly have emotional attachment to this. I'm not selling the piano or the dress or whatever, and I am going to pass away one day.
Yes.
He could have also, there was a half-sister that, you know, we don't know too much of other than Marilyn met her when she was already an adult. So clearly there wasn't a lot, but maybe between, you know, third wife and half-sister, maybe half-sister should have gotten something.
Something, at least a picture.
Like, I mean, I don't, you know what I mean?
A shoe.
Like,
here's a shoe, here's a purse.
Jesus. You know, here, like, nothing. It just all went to Anna, which is like, this is the epitome of like unintended consequences.
Yes.
You know, like this is like the poster child.
It is.
For that, you know, and it's like, it's really kind of crazy. And I never knew this until we started researching this. I really, initially, when I heard that Lee's wife had inherited, I just thought, oh, well, Lee's like her best friend. It's like family to her. Of course, something happens to him, his wife, because I thought she was like best friends with her too, you know? No, that was not the case.
Nope.
That was not the case at all. But man, Anna, you are a fantastic CEO. You should be named executor of many estates, babe. I don't know if you're still alive. I imagine you are. But you should just have like fiduciary services by Anna, what is it, Strasberg, whatever her name was. You know, because you've already like proven what good of a job you do. Monetizing image, the likeness, like everything, like image rights. Like you just created an enterprise, like the Marilyn Monroe enterprise. And so it's really kind of impressive. I've truly seen many executors that have no clue on what to do with assets, no clue how to like, they'll come to me and they'll be like, there's this painting and there's this like antique book and there's whatever. And I'll be like, no. We're not selling that in a garage sale, babe. We got to like value it and do whatever. And they're like, oh, really? And then it comes back and it's worth a couple $100,000. Not worth $1.2 million like Marilyn's dress, but it's worth a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
And they just don't have any concept of that.
And if they're the executor, Leslie, and they're the one in charge of this, and the beneficiaries, and they don't manage that right, they're liable to the beneficiaries. They're liable, and they can sue that personal representative for basically mismanaging the assets of the estate. So there's a lot of responsibility and a lot of detail that goes into that and being accountable as an executor.
There really is.
Yeah.
There really, really is. That sometimes you're like, thank God they don't know in the beginning.
Yes.
Most of them, when they accept the position, they're just like, oh, what I got to do? And I try to suavizarlo a little sometimes. I'm like, don't worry, you do a little.
We'll guide you. We'll guide you.
We'll guide you a lot, you know. We had once, oh my God, like a hoarder. My God, in the last 2 years, I've had 2 hoarder properties. One, we opened the estate on behalf of Miami-Dade County. I don't know, because there was no beneficiaries that we knew of, no family, no anything. It was actually, I call her nosy neighbor, because to this day, I don't remember the lady's name.
Oh my gosh.
Who got her name from some realtor. I also don't remember her name. Because when they named the realtor, I was like, I don't know who it is. I don't know. I have no idea how she got to me. But she was just like super angry that, the house, couple houses down, that the guy had died. She was like, he was a miserable, motherfucker in life. I hated him in life. He was the worst neighbor ever. And now he's even like haunting me from like the dead, because like now his grass is up to here.
Yep.
And
there's rats.
The roof never got permitted. So the roofer's like putting shit all over the house, that they're going to foreclose on the house.
Oh
and
my
like,
gosh.
we were told they need to contact you. And I'm like, who's they, babe? There was no they.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't think there's any family. Like, mom and dad died. He never had any visitors. Like, he was an only child from what we can see. Maybe there's a long list. We don't know, but like, you do something about this. And we were big enough, this was last year, that like we could, let's try to open this estate on behalf of Miami-Dade County.
Yes.
I don't know, on behalf of the people
of Miami-Dade.
And of course, Cueto is gonna be like, what is this? Judge Cueto was not having it at first. He needed a lot more explanation about like, what are you talking about? When I got the locksmith to break down the door, it was the most disgusting. I heard there's a show on TV about hoarders.
Yes.
I've never seen it, and I certainly have never experienced it in my life. I had a very neurotic Cuban mother that made us, that cleaned every day. So like, and I'm the most like disorganized person. I don't know how I came out of her, probably in rebellion to how organized she was. But I walked in that house and I was like, oh my God, what are we going to do
I'm
with
sure
this?
there's rat feces.
Niña.
Hazmat.
Disgusting.
Sometimes you have to go in hazmat suits
Disgusting.
because of the urine and the feces and the chemicals. It's just,
awful.
you got to be careful.
Absolutely awful.
Yeah.
And of course, FPL cut off,
electricity.
Long time ago, like a year
Mold.
before. So it was disgusting. But inventorying everything in that house when you're a hoarder, and we don't know enough about the person at all. Because now we're like, we can't throw away any paper. We got to sort through all this paper. Where are the bank accounts?
Oh boy.
Where are the investment? Like, what did this guy own? We have no idea, right? So, and hopefully, because there was so much paper that I'm like, clearly he wasn't just getting everything to his email.
No.
Because I think that's even a bigger problem these days. Like the accounts don't go to, the house anymore or whatever. And that was super crazy. But we, me la busqué in a way. The other estate that we had, that there's a hoarder, there was a family member that was named executor of the estate, but she's not in the state anymore. So she was like, wait a minute, I'm not there. How am I going to inventory anything? Like she was flying back and forth.
Yeah.
Like she would be back, I think in Tallahassee, for like a week at a time or whatever. Most of her time, her job required her to be in Michigan. And we were like, okay, now it's estate cleanouts, in Tallahassee and all of this. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy of how much work that actually becomes and how liable you are to everybody else in the estate.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's sometimes a strategic decision with your attorney if like the beneficiaries and you hate each other. Maybe you don't want to sign up for this. Like maybe you truly want to be like, I'll just sit and somebody else needs to do this. And I just want to become one of the other 5 beneficiaries.
Absolutely.
Right?
And again, that's the importance of naming someone that's not local. Exactly that. They have to travel back and forth. And in essence, they're entitled to get reimbursed for this expense of having to do this. So all you're doing is you're basically eating away at what you're leaving your beneficiary, because now this personal representative has a right to get reimbursed and has a right to charge a fee for dealing with all of this. So those are also, things to take into consideration. That if your big concern is leaving the majority of your assets to your beneficiaries, well, then don't pick an executor that lives in a different state, and it's going to be a hassle, and they're going to have to, incur all these additional expenses on your behalf.
Not only that, I'm sure maybe at some point they thought this is a great executor because she's professional and she's established and she would never steal money and whatever. This woman had a very demanding job, guys. Like, she was CEO of a company you would recognize, and I was just like, who in their right mind thought this was a good idea? Like she's literally like, she had just gotten that job, which is why she was back and forth to like Michigan for some like 3-month, like, I don't want to call it training. It was much more than that. It's kind of like what I think of like as our onboarding of like culture and values and like very big picture type training. And I was just like, this woman has no time for
Oh my
this.
gosh.
This is nuts. So we really did take over most of it, but there was if she would have said, me and the other beneficiaries do not get along well, I would have been like, oh, this is a really bad idea.
Yep.
This is a really bad idea. We have, and you'll laugh at this one, we have an estate, we talk about beneficiaries don't get along well. It's just descended into madness. This really, and you know what? If they're listening to this podcast, y'all are all nuts, and I don't care. They've already threatened to sue 1,000 times. There's just not enough money. There was literally, dad died. Dad was married to our client, which is a surviving spouse. They'd been married for like 30 years. Dad had like 6 kids from a previous marriage.
Okay.
And so what's nuts here is like he left in his trust, like not even to the kid, like to his brothers and sisters. And they're all batshit crazy. They are just, there's $85,000. There's no money, okay? Like that to me is no money. Do you understand? At my rate, stop arguing with me. I'm going to own this entire estate.
Yes.
I tell them that all the time, right? I'm not even trying to be a bitch. I'm just like, guys, stop like fighting amongst yourselves and like they're batshit. All of them are batshit. Yeah. And the problem has been that even amongst them, I thought they just had an issue with my client, who's 90-something years old. Okay, surviving spouse, and una viejita, who thank God she doesn't have email, because she'd probably die of the anxiety these clowns would give her, right? Like, she's just like, I don't even tell her that. They're all fighting. Like, just, you know what I mean? Like, she's like, bueno, siempre en la vida hacían lo mismo. I'm like, oh, okay, people don't change, right? But even in between them, one of the siblings died, and that guy left a niece or whatever in charge of his estate. So now this poor girl gotta keep this estate open because I can't make distributions because everybody here is batshit crazy, right?
Oh my gosh.
Even when I get the financial institution to like close out these accounts, they'll call the financial institution and start screaming that there's fraud and people are stealing money, and then what do? Freeze the accounts.
Oh
right?
my gosh.
And what's even better is this has been going on for 3 years. Our BFF, who you know well, Sam, represented one of them 3 years ago, which is how it got referred to me, because the person that referred it to me doesn't litigate, right? So then I'm like, it's Sam, and then I get involved in this on behalf of the trustee, and I see that there's no money. And I literally call Sam and I'm like, Sam, babe, you can sue all you want, but there's no money here. And she's like, what? And I'm like, there's $85,000. And that was the end of her representation. That idiot, right? Because she's like, this guy's crazy. Like, they're not going to have any money to sue, but they've lawyered up like another 6 times.
Oh my Lord.
They love to like hire lawyers to send me nasty emails. And then when I get on the phone with that lawyer and go, let's have a come to Jesus moment, guys. You know what I mean? If they don't stop their shit, there's not gonna be any money left here. And that's when that lawyer usually goes away of like, guys, I mean, like they try to reason with their client. Their clients are not reasonable. But they've literally even called Miami-Dade County Police saying that I was stealing their money. Oh. Because when one of my associates could no longer handle this because he's a very nice introverted tax lawyer that is not into this fucking shit show. I got involved in the case, and I was going to make a distribution that was slightly uneven to get rid of the estate, like the underlying uncle estate, so she could close it out, right? And I didn't know that they all hated each other too. So that's when I learned, because they were like, absolutely not, she does not get $2,000 more than us.
My gosh.
I was like, guys, it'll cost more money for me to reissue checks.
Yes.
Like to literally cancel these checks that the bank had done incorrectly. And that's why I needed to just like give her the extra $2,000. It's your fucking niece. Like, who cares? Not even my clients, not even surviving spouse. And they would not agree with it. And when I said, I don't care, I'm moving forward, she's getting the check, they called the cops.
Oh my gosh.
They called Miami-Dade County. And told the cops, like, and they couldn't even, like, the cops couldn't even figure out, like, it was, like, given to
They're like, what?
That was, like, explain to us what is happening. You stole $2,000. I'm like, I did not steal $2,000. This is what we did. And they were like, oh, this is a civil matter.
Exactly.
Like, as soon as they were like, oh, got it. This is a civil matter. We don't even, stop explaining. You know, like, they were like, we don't care. But to tell you that $85,000, this has been going on for 3 years. Like,
I believe it.
I mean, imagine, this is just insanity.
I have a probate right now that it took us 2 years to name the personal representative.
Oh, wow.
Intestate, no will. And in similar situation, it's the surviving spouse and the decedent's 2 adults' children, which are not the spouse's child, but they were married for several years, and she, was their stepmom since they were in their like teens, early teens, and these are now grown adults. 2 years it took us, a day-and-a-half evidentiary hearing to determine why the surviving spouse could not serve as the executor, wait for it, over one piece of property. A condominium here in Miami. That is all that is in the estate. No, I lie. There's a Vespa scooter. Oh. And that is this, we're talking about maybe $200,000 value estate. Finally got that resolved. Finally got the property sold. Monies are now in the depository. And the day of closing, when they were going through and finally cleaning out the apartment or whatever little things were left, closing got delayed, I want to say maybe by like 3 or 4 days, because they were fighting over statues of camels.
Like
camels. Yeah, figurine, because they had a sentimental value. And one wanted the camels and the other one wanted a computer from like the year 2000. But that, was the computer that he would use while he was at his father's house, and it brought value. So this is what our closing got delayed by 3 or 4 days, because they were fighting over who was going to get the camels, who was going to get the computer, and they did not want to take it out of the apartment until they settled that. Yeah. It's fun times.
And that's truly part of the value that you bring, right?
Yeah.
In the sense of like, Nuñez does not only the estate planning, but she absolutely is like a real estate guru.
Yes. Yeah.
And all of those issues and like what goes into like a closing and dealing with it. Like I remember the date of the closing of the Hoarder. We forgot that the car was still there. And of course, because imagine I need a state clean out. We had to inventory. Yeah. By the time we're going to close, we were trying to pull close permits. We need to negotiate with the roofer that was owed $1 gazillion, had started foreclosure, right? Like there was just so many issues. But by the time we get like a cash buyer that's willing to just come in and I couldn't believe it. I mean, this house to me was like, esto se va a caer, right?
Yeah.
And it was a shitty little thing in Miami Shores, but apparently, girl, that's up and coming.
Yeah.
Because this is a $1.2 million, and I'm like, $1.2 million?
Miami Shores?
Oh my God. Like, what is going on in Miami Shores that I don't know about? But by the time this happens, we literally get from the realtor a call about, there's like some broken down piece of shit car still inside the
backyard?
In the garage.
In the garage.
And I was like, oh my God, we forgot about and they were like, this has got to get out of the house, And we had to get a tow truck company to go over there. And of course, I had to find the sketchiest tow truck company in the world, because they're like, how do you get it? Like, we can't open that garage door. Like, that garage is not, I need somebody to bust down the garage door, get the car, and without asking too many questions, because we don't exactly have a specific court order saying take the car, guys, all right? Right?
Do you have keys to the car? Nope. Figure it out.
Of course you have keys to the car. So, this is Miami. That wasn't that hard to find. But that car sat in front of my house in Coral Gables. Gosh. Thank God, I know the city engineer of Coral Gables, because I worked with him many years ago. And I was like, they better not ticket me.
Because you're going to find
every single day.
Yes.
Because this broken down piece of shit 1992 Toyota Tercel.
With zero value.
Oh my God, we couldn't even get somebody to take
you got to pay someone to take it away.
Exactly. We were like, what is this worth? Nothing. It's actually a debt to the estate, because somebody's got to take this piece of shit. It's crazy. And I remember real estate attorney was very upset. And I was like, I am so sorry. I don't, right? And of course, the realtor is probably livid because she's waiting for her money.
Of
you know what I
course.
mean? And this random, I don't even know who the realtor and real estate attorney must know each other, because I've never heard of this real estate attorney in Broward. And she's like, how could you guys? Yeah. Mi amor, we got this case 9 months
you don't
ago.
understand.
You don't even know the level of my entire had boxes of this man's shit, okay? We started calling it his office. We put a sign that it was his, the ghost of the deceased, it's his office. He would live on at Trust Council, you know what I mean? All my law clerks, all 6 of them that summer, were dealing with this estate, So yeah, babe, I forgot about the car. I'm sorry. And the car had to get towed. And we got it towed, and they closed a couple days later, right? But little things like that there cannot be a closing if there's some freaking asset there that the buyer does not want on the property. What are they going to do with it?
I had a crazy situation. This was actually the first time I ever had this situation, where the lady died in the apartment and she wasn't found for several days. Yeah. So one of the conditions of the condominium giving, issuing any type of approval to the new buyer or anything like that was that we needed to have like a hazmat deep cleaning done. And I hate to say that the reason why we found out, because, heaven forbid her children would call and check in on her because they were the beneficiaries of the estate, was because the neighbors started smelling and worms were coming through to the next unit. Yes. No, it was bad. It was bad. So this was the first time I've ever dealt with, and they needed to have not just being cleaning company.
Right.
No. Because my buyer was like, oh yeah, I'll have my tia go in there with some Fabuloso and some Clorox and we'll clean this bitch up. No. It had to be certified, like hazmat, environmental. And it was crazy. It took us like 2 months to find like a company and get them approved by the association to do this deep cleaning before they allowed us to sell the property. So people don't realize like all these intricacies that happen in between, people that pass away and properties and getting them sold. And on this one, I actually wasn't involved on the probate. I was working together with a probate attorney and she was wonderful to work with. I was the real estate, I was the title company doing the closing and my client was the buyer. And I was like, wow. Luckily she was buying it as an investment because I was like, I don't think I'd want to live there if I were you. She's like, no, this is investment. But yeah, things like that. And it could delay a closing and it's all tied to the probate. And then we need to get a court order to approve for the estate because this is an estate responsibility and it is an estate expense. So it's crazy. It is. It's nuts.
It is. It gets involved, guys. It gets involved. That is for sure. So, we could talk forever.
Oh, for sure.
I could talk forever. And you could,
for sure. We got stories galore.
Exactly. But, so to wrap this up, some of the lessons that definitely our audience should take, and other advisors should take away, because I think I've been getting lots of emails and everything, and interestingly, a lot of other types of attorneys and other advisors that also might deal with estates, even like realtors, have been emailing me and asking questions or whatever. So I was like, okay, we need to do lessons for other advisors that aren't just like the general public. And so definitely, who you choose as your executor really needs to be thought
very
through.
Important.
And honestly, if your attorney doesn't, if you go to Door Law Pajarito Attorney, and I bash Pajarito Door Law attorneys on this podcast weekly. So I feel like it was missing. If you go to Door Law Attorney and they're just like, oh yeah, your business manager that robbed you already can be your executor.
Great idea.
And they don't give you a little bit of pushback, you might want to move on. You might want to choose someone else.
Yes.
Number 2, simple wills. Don't you always get people calling you? No, I will see.
Oh, yes. Mine is simple.
Yeah, I've yet to actually agree with anybody that actually tells me that.
No.
Like, every now and then it happens that they're looking for something much more complicated. I'm like, you really don't need all that?
Yeah.
But it has never happened to me that somebody calls me for simple will and I just think, oh, yeah, that's going to be a simple will. No, it's not. No, it is absolutely not. And simple wills really have very, very limited time, place, and purpose, that they will actually work in the way that you intend.
Yes.
So that's probably a big lesson of, the one-trick pony, the one-trick simple will.
Please don't. Even if you don't pick us as your estate planning attorney, but please pick someone that specializes in this. Pick us, but someone that specializes it. Oh my God, just yes, please. Someone that knows what they're doing and porque, lo barato sale caro. And Simple Pony doing you a will for $600, that should ring some bells and raise some red flags. And no. Man. And then do not put vague clauses. Yes.
And again, this goes back to who's your attorney. Because your attorney that knows what they're doing is not going to allow you to be like, my BFF is going to choose the charities, whatever, let's sale.
Absolutely not.
What are you, nuts? Or my whoever is going to... at least Lee didn't steal all the money, because that when I first read that, I'm like, bro, and every other estate, they would have just stolen that shit. No, poor Lee had that locked away in a very nice warehouse,
climate controlled.
The piano was in great. Clearly, the dress still sold for 1.2 million, so it was in decent condition. You know what I mean? It didn't have mold on it. So at least Lee did a good executor job.
Yes,
but clearly, whether any Ness. Imagine if Lee would have predeceased all the personal property would have went to Inez.
Oh my gosh.
Olvídate de eso. Like,
No.
that just would have been a hot mess. That would have been, like, I mean, this is just nuts to me. So that goes back to choose the right advisor.
Yes.
And make sure that your personal property, certain things happen with it, especially if you have art, things that are really worth, not all of us are Robin Williams, not all of us are Marilyn Monroe, not any of us are. But you may have things that are valuable. You may have art, you may have whatever it is. I once had such a millennial. Millennials us. We're fucking old millennials. Like, this client was younger than that. She had like a $2,000 espresso machine, and she had inherited a lot of money, and that's why somebody told her she needed to do estate planning. But this is like a little 30-year-old, and she has no job, has no anything. She's gonna blow through $10 million if she doesn't get it. We referred her to financial advisors, but she was like, when we asked her about personal property, she was like, I have a really expensive espresso machine, and I was like, that's a new one, I'm like, anybody particularly want this espresso machine? She's like, all my friends will want it. I was like,
okay.
Like, what? I hate to like be so whatever about it, but I was like, I don't know. I think that's gonna devalue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's not gonna appreciate it.
In a year, there'll be a newer model.
Exactly. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I'm a coffee connoisseur, but I don't have $8,000 espresso machines. Like, I don't know. So, whatever. Personal property is very unique in its nature, but generally don't put vague shit in your estate
Be
plan.
specific.
Be very specific about what happens. And if people are not around, then what should happen?
Exactly.
And if those people are not around, what should happen?
We call that the wipeout clause. If everybody you name gets wiped out,
I'm like the zombie apocalypse.
Yes, then who's gonna receive it?
And of course, we have bigger issues in the zombie apocalypse, but regardless, like, that's how I get people out of their minds of like, everybody's dead. Don't worry, it's a zombie apocalypse.
Yes.
It's not gonna happen anytime soon.
I like that. I'm gonna use that.
Zombie apocalypse. Like. So anything else? Any last words?
No, I think those are very important key points. Those are very important things to keep in mind. People don't really understand that these are all headaches and that you're leaving behind. And if you're not clear in your wishes and you don't plan and you don't leave things how you want, it's all just going to get eaten up in court, in litigation, attorney's fees, mismanagement, and then that's not what you wanted. So be clear. Be specific, have proper estate planning with someone who does this and knows what they're doing, and really think about who you're naming in those documents. So
that is probably the most important lesson for today.
Yes.
Choose your executor, trustees, fiduciaries very carefully and really think through, are they the right person to do that job? So that is it for today on Having Fun with Death and Taxes. I hope you guys had as much fun as we did. And remember, regardless if you're a celebrity or not, you need to get your planning done to protect yourself, your family, your assets. Don't forget to follow us. All of Alina's information will be below. Actually, do you want to tell them about the resource you're going to have available for our lovely audience?
Yes, we will have it downloadable. We're going to have it on our website, and it's basically our end-of-life planner. So as we sit here and put down all your information so you don't have to be sorting through a hoarder's house of papers to see what bank accounts you have, print it out, write down what assets do you have? Do you have any special wishes? What are your desires? Because once you're gone, nobody can ask you. What are your passwords? And all of that, you can put it together, keep it with your important documents, because once you pass away, if you have it, a lot of people will be like, oh, I already have that saved on my computer. Great. Does somebody know the password to your computer? Because when you're not here, they can't ask you for it. And that way you can have everything written down there, and then your family doesn't have to go scrambling and come to me and go, I have no idea what this person had. And my first question is like, well, do you have their cell phone? And they're like, yes, but I don't know the password. I'm like, well, what good does that do? So yes, our end-of-life planner, we will have it digitally download. You go to our website, willsattorneymiami.com. You'll be able to download it, fill it out, and just put it with your important documents. And that way your family at least has a guide in case you did not get to do your estate planning to know where to start.
That is a great resource. I love that. We will also link to all of your information and to her LinkedIn, your Tickety Talk. Do you have Tickety Talk?
Yes, I have Tickety Talk.
We will link to her Tickety Talk, her Instagram, and everything else so you know where to find Nuñez.
Thank
you.
So
that is all for now. See you next time.